Alright, so now if you have to select your locator, you can do that directly from the hypergraph here. Let me see. I'm actually going to move the annotation out of the way just a little bit, so that way, and that's kind of annoying, the annotation's getting in the way when I simply want to select the locator. There we go. So with the locator selected, they're going to have you simply play around with the object and move it about like this, and have you insert some values in the translate Y and Z. But as you can see here, this thing is moving in an unnatural. Well, if this was a machine, it wouldn't be able to move like this. It wouldn't be able to somersault and do all this crazy stuff. So we're going to use the attribute editor here. I'm going to set everything back to 0. We're going to use the attribute editor here and put some restrictions on the arm control, so that way it can only go so far back and so far forward. So I'm going to bring my hypergraph back up. Actually, well, just make sure the arm control is selected. So with the arm control selected, we go over here to our attribute editor. It'll be, see your channels boxes right here. I take one little area to the left. You may notice right here at the bottom, see right here, it's kind of like a little highlights and gives you the names of different things you roll over. So if you're unsure as far as what you're currently rolling over, just pay attention to the lower left hand corner. It'll tell you what exactly the name of the tool is. In our case here, we need to locate the attribute editor. So I click on that, and I'm going to deselect my channels to make more room. And now with the control locator selected, you should see a tab that says arm control. We'll click on that, and right here underneath limit information, we activate limit information, and you can limit pretty much anything that you see fit. See, we have a couple options here: translate, rotate, scale, all that good stuff. Well, we're going to want to limit the translate information. So you see, currently it's inactive, but we can activate the limits and insert the values that they want as far as this exercise goes. So, okay, we'll want to activate translate Y and Z. So translate limits Y and Z. So you'll want the translate limit for the minimum, which means this will be the minimum values that will be entered. So minimum movement, maximum movement, and current movement is set to 0. So it's very important before you do anything is make sure that your arm control, all the values are set for 0. And you'll see there's nothing for X because you disabled translate X. So let's see, for the minimum movement, I believe we enter 1. Oh, wait a minute. Getting this mixed up here. 1 second. Okay, so for the maximum, well, we'll start with minimum first. Okay, so minimum Y movement will be -13, I believe. And then the maximum Y movement will be 7.5. Minimum Z movement, it will be -13. And the maximum Z movement we leave as 1. So now if we test this out with our arm control still selected, see, maximum, minimum, maximum, minimum. Same thing goes for the Y. That's the minimum. That's the maximum. So no matter how we move this, we're now constrained to the minimum values and the maximum values for both y and z. And if I wish to reset, I'm going to turn off the attribute editor. And if I want to reset any of these values, I simply select 0, and there we go. We're right back where we started. Now that might seem tedious, but if you were to have a, like say, a human structure or humanoid like set of bones, you definitely wouldn't want any kind of unnatural movements on them. You wouldn't want their elbows bending further back than than is humanly possible, or as far as as far as the bones are concerned. So adding limits, it is tedious, but when it comes to animating, you want as little room for error as possible. So adding limits just makes animating something like this a whole lot easier. So that way you're like, oh, okay, I'm limited to these movements, and that's all I have to work with. You don't have to worry about anything else.